permission from the host. Oh, Michaela, wait, Nikki.
Nikki,
permission. Yes, Nikki signed in.
I just started recording, I think.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this being, you know, essentially, I mean, this is what you see when you first log into your account. You've got the different types of visual graphics that you can choose from on the left here. I think.
I have a question, Ashton.
Yeah, sure.
Because I actually have never done anything but the printables.
Mm-hmm.
So are the infographics for like putting on a website? Or do you normally use the printables too, right?
I've used either of them. I mean, the printables make more sense just because you're going to be printing them, and so they're going to be the dimensions of what you
Okay.
need. I've gone to infographic and chosen, but you can see already, like, even the preview of what they look like, they're longer than what like 8.5 by 11 would typically be. So if you were going to print that, you would end up having more pages or something would be cut off.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of what I'm covering today is really going to be stuff that you can use with clients or use for visuals, and probably going to live more in the printables than anything, just because there's a lot less editing that you actually have to do. As far as like the length goes, I mean, there would be a lot of customization if you chose the infographic, especially if there's like a background, you have to make the right size so that nothing gets cut off.
I can relate. Infographics are great for use in social media specifically. They're meant, usually they're a visual chart that kind of walks people through things, but they're not standard to your normal paper size. So if you're going to be printing, it would get a little wonky. So you may want to stick with the poster size, the flyer size, or the report size. So just, you know, depending upon how you're going to use it.
Right, and I mean, you can do, like I was saying, you could do edits if you found like a template in the infographic that you wanted to use that really fit visually or whatever, but you would have to do a lot more customization to get it to fit to the printable size, and that might be more time than what you really want to spend on it. So I wanted to start off with some examples of what, you know, people in Clark are using PiktoChart for the various aspects of what we do for as employment consultants. So anything from discovery to job development tools to support while employed tools to even miscellaneous things that might not necessarily be used directly with customers, but could be useful in employment consultant to employment consultant communication. So I want to start with discovery. This is a particular flyer that was used for a social story for a client that both Donna and I work with. I mean, it's something where you could just go in, upload pictures. There's not a whole lot that's here, so the amount of time that you spend isn't that long. This is one that was actually when I first started using PiktoChart, so I think I chose the infographic and had to do a lot of customization. But this is where, you know, Donna started working with this client, had a social story that she would go into Word and type up each time, or she would she would actually handwrite it. And so actually throwing into PiktoChart, especially into the Clark Trillium account that everybody uses, that became something that we could both access at any time and just print off, rather than having to throw something together last minute or redo it every single time. But these are things that we currently use with her, with this client. And I mean, not this exact same one, but the contents of it are things that we still currently use with this client. other discovery ones, you can use it as a simple type of, picture task list for things that are going to happen during that meeting. I know with this particular client that part of the assessment or part of the discovery process with him was figuring out how to best communicate with him, how to figure out what his interests were. It's not a client of mine, so I don't know exactly how this was used, but just having different pictures that you could put into a nice even format like this, and asking a client to point to what interests them or cross out something that they don't like, something that could be used in discovery and pretty easily thrown together in PiktoChart. I have another one here. Let's see. Here's one. This was a client that was in discovery at the point in time that this was made, and he had a communication device. And so this is kind of like a meld between discovery and taking notes, and then also having a working document that can be used between multiple ECs to have it documented of the different parts that were needed for his communication device and how to use it. And then, like I said, just notes on how to use it. So if I were his job coach, if I showed up and his communication device wasn't assembled and he was someone that needed help with it, I could have this on hand, or I can log in on my phone and find this and set it up, or it's something that I could easily share with another EC. And then another one that we have here is meeting with my job coach and different expectations for for a client meeting with the job coach. And again, this is something that could happen at any phase, but it's something that can be established with certain clients during discovery. As far as hygiene goes, not exactly sure. I didn't create this one, but there is some overlapping. So that's going on here, and that might be something that just wasn't previewed by the person that built it. So for JD purposes, we have a bunch of flyers that we have created for various customers. So here's one. It's essentially highlighting, what it's kind of taking a meld of a resume and a proposal and putting it into one. So Donna, you created this one. Was this specifically for aiming towards like orthodontic type offices, or?
Yeah, I tweaked it a little bit, but originally it was a proposal for a CBA site where she was very successful. And so if you scroll down a little bit where it says would like to offer this proposal for a part-time position, there it had, at Dr. Johnson's office, whatever it was. And so there was a few things that were very specific to that. And I just, called it a visual resume, or, like you said, it's kind of a cross between a proposal and a resume, but it has, a lot of visuals in it. And also, putting in what can Abby do for you first, but then what can Trillium do, and how we're offering those as well. And Abby's got a job starting next month. So that's going to be really great.
Yeah, I mean, and I've created several of these myself, and here's another example of one, this not being one that I have created, but a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have this printed off as sort of like a flyer about the customer that is on top of their resume, and then I'll have my business card attached to it as well. But this one, again, it's not necessarily like a resume, because it's talking about her interests and everything, but it does meld into a proposal for a specific restaurant. And something like this where you've got the logo of the restaurant, that's super easy to do in PiktoChart with going online, finding the logos. You just save the image to your computer and you can upload it into PiktoChart. And then here's another one of a flyer that was done. Again, there's about me, hobbies, interests, volunteer experience. Ones that I've done, I've always include the person's picture, contact information that you would include on a resume. Here's the job coach information down here as well. If I really want to point out that the customer is looking for specific hours, I would, I've done it where I've made it sort of like a big highlight at the top, looking for a permanent part-time position, seeking 9 to 12 hours, sort of thing. Another one, Donna held up the button. These are ones that were created for the Peace and Justice Fair. Is that what these ones were?
Yeah, we had two of them. We had this one, and then we also had Everyone Can Work with the Trillium logo on it.
So that, that booth was set up for the intent of, getting different people to come up and talk about where they work and whatnot, and talking to them about inclusion in the workplace. It's something where you could put together, small graphics like this where, if you wanted to create your own little card about somebody, instead of doing like an entire flyer, or if you want to create a little button blurb about somebody, just ways that you can become creative. I know like in the weight loss community, when I'm specifically speaking to organizations like Herbalife, or I can't remember some other ones, but like the people who are coaches who are trying to get more clientele, they would actually create buttons that would say, I've lost however many pounds. The person that I was with for a while, hers was 100 pounds, and asked me how I've kept it off, and that was a way to actually start conversations with somebody. So just creating small things like that could start a conversation essentially. So we did a discovery, JD, and now for support while employed, showing various different task lists. So here's one that was created that is a checklist for a newer job start in Clark. And for this particular client, breaking it down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then what to do at the end of the shift. And what I really like about, PiktoChart, if you needed to say, take like this paragraph and switch it with Thursday and switch Thursday to Monday, that's something that's super easy to do. Some other examples of task lists. And of course, this could be in CBAs as well. I know this particular task list was done specifically for CBA, but it could be something that's just pictures and it shows in sequence, and then you know what done looks like. And this is something where you just take a picture with your phone, upload it onto your computer, and then you upload it into PiktoChart. And then here's another one for clocking in, and then a reminder to start watch. This was uploading pictures and then just using simple shapes to highlight and call out buttons that need to be used. Let's see. I think that's it for task lists, but other types of tools can be created in PiktoChart. So this one did you use this? Did you create this one, Donna?
I did. I created that and I did not use it.
Oh.
But what that was for, basically, I have a customer who was rushing through his bill counting. And so I just created that so that he could lay it down, and as people hand him money, he could put down 20s in here, 10s here, 5s here, and then there was a spot at the end for him to use to add it up, because he was making some mistakes with bills. But I ultimately did not use that one.
Okay.
But that was a work tool that to create that was a little bit different than a task list.
Yeah, and then I know that there are some other, for instance, these are two tools. This is for a customer that I have that in sending out these racks would want to line them up, and just having a simple picture with a check mark to show them that this was the correct way before packaging. That was a tool that was added to his workbook when he got a new task. Here's another tool that was added to the same customer's workbook, just to show which knobs to put on first, and then that they don't have to be screwed down all the way, showing that, you know, these black portions were closer to the top, and then telling him exactly how many he needed to build and who to take them to. And then the last, sorry?
No, I was just going to ask, is Abby's About Me still in there?
Still in the general area?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made copies and then moved the copies over. And then the other thing that I just want to highlight is that, like I said, you could, you know, use these for things that that aren't that you maybe might not think to use them for. So I use PiktoChart to create all the graphics that are for the lunch and learns. I know Christina has used them to create some, you know, flyers that could get hung up at different businesses that talk specifically about Trillium and what Trillium has to offer. Like I know we have one that hangs up on the bulletin board at a church that a client does a volunteer shift at. Donna made some board games, and we have a sign-up sheet that was created using PiktoChart for it. Every once in a while, we'll have salad days at our staff meetings, and the sign-up sheet was created rather beautifully, and not by me, using PiktoChart. And then I've created when I've done a training before, and it was something that involves software where people might need to go back and look at different pictures and have instructions on how to do things. I created the training manual for that training inside of PiktoChart as well. And then I just realized that another thing that can be used for is just social stories. This is one that I use for a support while employed person, where you can, you know, include the company logo, any pictures you want to, and some verbiage to go along with it. And then actually I just realized I forgot this one too. Specifically for JD, I know in Clark, and I'm sure just, you know, the same up north, when we get a placement in one store, it kind of becomes an easier way to try and get your foot in the door in another place. So I've used PiktoChart to create a very specific flyer in targeting various Dominoes. So I've gotten this manager's permission to use her name and use her number, and to reference this particular customer and what in the value that she's added to the store, as well as provide information on what her tasks specifically are, and used the charts option in PiktoChart to track data and show, you know, just how many boxes she's able to fold per shift and how that can add benefit to a company. So places that are more production wise, that could be something where there's actual numbers that you can track, that might be something that you do really targeted JD on and use PiktoChart for. Any questions so far? No? Okay. And so then the next thing, I just wanted to show some basic editing for using PiktoChart. You can use, create a new infographic or printable. I'll go there, sorry. You could do it from scratch, or you can choose from a template. This seems to have a lot of various elements, so I'll just go ahead and I'll show some basic editing for this particular type of graphic. So it has a photo element where you can drop it into a specific box. We can add a picture that's outside of that box. There's some text that you can already go in and edit. There are, you know, as far as doing text editing, that's a pretty basic. You can highlight and start changing text without, let me move these out of the way. Okay, now I can see the whole screen. Without doing a whole lot of searching, you, like I said, just highlight and start changing the text. With the text highlighted up here, you have the option to change the font. So if I decided this was the font I wanted, I could change the size up here. I can do Control Z if I didn't like what I did. Many of the same shortcuts that you could use in Microsoft as well. You can change the color. So if I wanted it to be green, let's say, oh, that looks awful. We'll go ahead and go to like a light gray. And then you can also change the opacity. This doesn't, whoops, I had something else highlighted. It doesn't, I wouldn't say it really comes in super handy for anything that you want to be bold and catch people's eyes. But if you wanted to do any type of layering, let's say you wanted to sort of create your own background, you can change the opacity for the specific thing, and then you could actually, you know, copy and paste this and run it down and create your own background in that sense. It saves automatically, like you just saw with the message that popped up. You can name it up here in the left-hand corner and hit save as well. And then some of these other tools that are up here, I'm going to click and drag. So I have these things overlapping. If you had, let's say you had two things that you wanted to make sure that they didn't change being able to be lined up. It could be, you know, text, especially if you're going to be creating your own background. So let's say you wanted to create your own background using this sort of banner here and have it and have the heart be part of it, and you wanted to duplicate it, but you didn't want to accidentally grab and move this heart and have it be off-centered, then what you could do is actually group them together. So these lines also provide for some measuring elements that will help you out. So if I hit Shift and then left click, I've grabbed both of them, and then I can group those together using this icon. Let's see, and it didn't do it. I would like to group and have it stay. I don't know if I'm grabbing onto something that's in the background. Oh, I see. So these are all individual. That's what's going on. So I just ungrouped it all. So I'm going to undo that. Undo. Undo. Okay, so yeah, that's not letting me go back and group it since this is all a grouped item. But so let's say I want to do that with the text then I can hold shift, left click, and group. So now if I wanted to, I can move this anywhere I want, but this lower text here is going to be always in the same spot and centered. Some other tools that are up here. You have the, if you want to lock something in place, like with some of the examples I showed, there was like the business up top. If you wanted to lock a block in place, because you can start stacking things and you can end up grabbing something that you don't want to. So let's say I wanted this text to be over the top of this banner in the back. And then I decided that I wanted to move it, but I didn't want this banner to actually move. Then I can lock this into place so that if I grab onto something, if I have this overlapping, I just want to move the text, that banner is not going to move because now it's locked. Some other options that pop up in the toolbar, some of your basic text editing. Another one that I want to call attention to is the arrange. So if I have, let's pull up some shapes real quick. I have a black circle and I have a white star or a gray star. And let's say for the sake of this, I wanted the circle be on top of the star. Then that's where this arrange comes into play. You hover over it, you see there's bring to front, send to back, bring forward, or send backward. Send to back and bring to front. If I had, 3 items there, and so there's a heart involved as well, and the heart is green. So if I wanted to pull this circle all the way to the front, then send to front would be bring to front would be the one to use instead of bring forward. Send to back sends it all the way back, and even put it behind this background here. So there's some different options that you have as far as layering goes, and this will be the tool to help you with it. There's also flipping that you can do. And I think these are all tools that you can find in anything else like Microsoft Word as well. You have different lines that you can choose from, and that the option to do dotted or to do dash or anything, that's all up here.
Okay, I've tried to do lines and I've always ended up with just some dashes. I never realized it's up there.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And then you can also change the width of it.
Excellent.
Based on the percentage. Let's see. So photos, there are some stock photos that come in. I've never actually had this pop up before.
That's new.
Yeah. So stock photos are in there. I can't say that I've ever used stock photos because, I mean, usually we're not doing like JD in a vacationing spot that looks that nice or anything.
Speak for yourself. I'm just kidding. I was getting a root canal yesterday, and I was trying to JD while on laughing gas, and it was not
nice.
So that I don't know if there's a stock photo for that, but please let me know if you find one.
All right, I'll let you know if I find one. But these are photo frames. Like what's on screen right now is already a photo frame that's in there, but you can choose from different styles of photo frames. And if I were to just click on this guy right here, I have the option to resize the photo frame if I wanted to, say, add, a small call out somewhere in this. So if I wanted to I can do Control CMV will duplicate it, or copy and paste just like it would be in Word, and then I can, you know, put Christmas tree pictures of actual trees or forests or something here. And then where you get your photos from that you want to put in there, you can use the stock ones if, again, you are going to do JD for an exotic destination. Or you can find the pictures that you've uploaded. And I just left clicked on it, it drops it right in. And then to drop it into one of those photo frames, you left click and start dragging, and then you can put it into a photo frame. From here, you can double click on it, and then you can kind of move it around if you want to recenter it. If how it originally went in there, you can hit cancel. If you get it where you like it, you can hit done. Let's see. So for uploading images, if I had one that was on my desktop, I could move this aside, and I do have some. So I could left click and drag to upload, or I could choose browse image. So this one's a little too big. If I were to have it saved as a smaller size, I could left click and drag it. Or I could just do browse images, and it pulls up the file searches just like anything else. Go. And there is the limit. If you do have the free version, the limit is a lot smaller. I would say if I were using PiktoChart for only me and nobody else was logging in to my account, that would be a lot more easier to manage. If you're doing like a group like our Trill is doing, then I would highly recommend that you assign a point person to contact PiktoChart to get maybe, I don't know if other counties would be able to get linked up with the Clark one, but to get everybody on a pro account, so that could be expanded.
And also, I don't know if you mentioned, Ashton, but the pro accounts are discounted for nonprofits.
Right. Yes. So going down the left side here.
Can I interrupt you, Ashton? I think
Sure.
I missed that. So can we use your guys' login, or do we need to have our own?
I would say that if everybody went in and used the same one for all of Trillium, that it would get bogged down pretty quickly.
Okay.
I think it would, personally, I think it would be a better idea if it was done county by county.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So you have the option to choose different backgrounds. This one already has a background, and the background is locked, which is why I haven't been able to click and drag on it. So if I unlock this, I can move it aside. There's a lot of lines back there. But this is a perfect example of something that you would want to lock, so that you could, if you wanted to just highlight a bunch of stuff and not have the background actually move, lock it in place, then you can move everything else. So there's all these different templates that you could choose from. I will say for printables that you intend on printing, to be a little kinder to our toner levels, choosing something that isn't jet black or even like a full saturation of red. If you want to do like highlights of red, where this, you know, box was even smaller, and then choosing like a tinted white as the rest of it, that would be really nice of you for Trillium's sake and saving money. And you can, just like you, I showed how to change the opacity on the banner that was at the top there. You can change the opacity on the backgrounds as well. So a lot of times I kind of default to either using white, or if I think another color should be used, or I want to use a different color, I do a lower opacity so that it doesn't waste a lot of toner. But as you can see, there's a lot of different backgrounds that you can choose from.
And also when you're printing, you could choose to, choose a setting that's not super saturated in color to kind of help with the print costs and things like that using the print ink at each county. Just a thought.
Yeah. So there's some other text options that you have that you can use. So aside from just choosing size or the color or the font, you can go to the text side. And what's pretty nifty about this is that title size is the big call out that comes up. So it's automatically a larger size. And then as you go down the list here, so I'll go back and delete and move stuff. So got the title here. I'll choose the subtitle. You can see that it's getting a little bit smaller each time. So it kind of has it built in to really help you in quickly designing the different aspects of what you're wanting to, how you're wanting to display information. And then you can use a variety of text frames. I use these ones a lot in particular as far as like doing flyers for lunch and learns, just to do a really fast call out for what the date is and the time that something's going to happen. But there's a lot that you have to choose from that you can do some editing with. A lot. I could scroll here for a couple minutes. And then from here, double click to edit, and then those same tools that you had available for you. One thing that is super handy, I did show the different flyers that we use for JD that go along with the customer's resume. Sometimes you might be emailing those instead, and I'll show you in a second how you can save those as PDFs so that you can email them. But you can use this link option where you can add in a tagline at the bottom where you've included, say I've done this entire flyer and it's for a guy named Joe that I'm trying to find a job and I've included, all of my job coaching credentials down here. I could have this tagline up here that says, please click here to view Joe's video resume. And assuming that things aren't all stacked up, I can highlight here and use the linking option and go onto Google Drive or whatever, cloud-based storage that I'm using, grab the link and actually link it. So I've used this recently where I found an Indeed posting for a company that I've tried going in person. I've tried emailing, tried calling, haven't gotten any sort of response. So I replied to a job posting that was not for any sort of position that I was trying to get a customer a job at. But I used that posting to attach that flyer that I created that also include the link to the person's video resume to try and get that company to go, hey, okay, I see you. And that was actually the first time the company responded to me. So just some clever ways that you can use the linking option or use those flyers for JD. So there are other things like built-in color schemes. Again, a lot of it is to really help you take the guesswork out of what you want to do. With this being a template, there's not going to be a whole lot of changes that are done, but if I click I actually think that it's been a really long time since I've actually used the built-in color scheme. So I think it's intended to be something that you go back and reference. But, sorry, what was that? Oh, okay. But this little bar that I just clicked on, if you wanted to make it more of a a 2-pager, 3-pager, doing the manual that I showed you, this would be where you could do that under the printables. If you wanted to have the exact same content information that is on this page to be on the next one, then you could do clone block. And instead of just creating a second blank page, you would actually create the exact same page in a second page. Unfortunately, I would have to go back and reread on how to use the built-in color schemes, but those are there as something to make it a lot easier for you. And then as far as these options goes, the one that I have used the most, I haven't used maps or videos really, is the chart option. And that's the one that I had shown you with the JD flyer. And doing the chart option, what I really like about it is you have all these different kinds of charts that you could choose from. But the thing that I absolutely love the most about it is that if I save this information in PiktoChart and I want to go back and update it, you know, say 2 months later, say, you know, I decided to use that Domino's template, I want to use it again, but I wanted to update her stats because she's going so much faster at box folding, then I could come in those 2 months later and I could change these figures. And I could use everything else that was actually on there without having to, you know, do a whole lot of work other than just having the stats. But you can see how it live updates for you. Boxes. Live updates, you can choose, again, the different styles. You could, you know, choose what goes in the title and what's on the X and Y axis. You could even choose the colors, and I haven't done this in a while, so I'm like, oh, here we go. You can choose the colors that go into it. So Domino's is blue, red, and white, so making something that would go more towards their color scheme is something that you can do as well. And then everything else that you input into there is just really based on the type of data that you want to choose. So I would do insert chart. So if this is the chart that I want to use, I'm going to delete all the stuff that's away here. You have the option to resize it to make it fit where you want to. And then, like I said, if I want to come back in a couple months and update some stats, I just click on that button and it brings up the exact same thing. So I think that covers like the basic editing things. I know I went through that fast, but we started a little late. Are there any questions so far? No? Okay. So granted, this isn't the prettiest thing, but let's say this is, you know, what I wanted to print off. I want to print off this weird chart and a picture of Clorox wipes. I could go to preview to see how everything lines up before I actually print it off, because you can, after you have this open for a while, you start feeling like you're off center and everything's off to the right. So the preview definitely helps to make sure that everything's lined up the way that you want to. And then this is how you can get it to where you can either print or you can send off as either a picture or a PDF. Personally, I only use PDF. If you were only uploading a picture in to do some editing, like putting it to one of those photo frames, PNG is the way to go. And then as far as the quality for the kind of work that we're doing, I just do normal. I haven't had any reason to try and bump it up to medium or high. And then download as blocks. If you're doing it in, if you're doing your designing in the printable mode, you really don't have to worry about the blocks. It's when you start going into the infographic option that you would need to do download as blocks, and it actually saves it into a bunch of different PNGs. So I'll do download as PDF for this printable. And it takes a minute. And here it's popped up. I click on it, opens the PDF. From here, I can go to print. I can choose to save it in a different location because right now it's just in my downloads folder. So I could go and save as and go to my desktop if I wanted to, or wherever else I might store this information. So that's the basic editing. And then the last thing that I just want to cover is why anybody would choose to use this over like Microsoft. I know for a while, a lot of team members before getting introduced to PiktoChart were using Microsoft Word to do like social stories or to even create the task lists. And I mean, I can't vouch for using it against something like Prezi just because I'm not, you know, familiar with it. But if I'm doing something where I'm just taking a picture, like one of these pictures that I tried to drag in, if I am just trying to resize this picture, if I'm just trying to do cropping, make it smaller. If I just need to print this out as a reminder, then I would just drag that into Microsoft Word. I wouldn't bother going through the process of uploading it into PiktoChart to resize it. And also another thing to point out is that PiktoChart doesn't have a cropping option for the photos that you upload. So if you want to do any cropping to your photo, you'll need to do that in advance. Otherwise, I would go to use PiktoChart if I were trying to do anything that was more of an infographic where I wanted to have pictures, I wanted it to look dynamic, and I wanted to add some verbiage as well. If I'm only doing just words, I'm going to Microsoft Word. If I'm, like I said, doing a picture where I'm going to do some cropping and just print it off, then I'm going to go to Microsoft Word. But if you really want it to look dynamic, if you want it to look maybe a smidgen more professional, if you want it to be something that could catch people's eye, or you want to be able to link things or create charts, I know Microsoft has the ability to create charts in it. It's called Microsoft Word for a reason, in my opinion, and so I only use it for word processing. To me, PiktoChart makes it a lot easier. And I think that's it, unless you guys have any questions or anything else that you'd like to bring up.
No, I'm excited to go try it out. Thanks for showing us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for joining in.
That was good, Ashton. Thanks.